Hello everyone. So we are going to commence the recordings or rather the lectures of CL4 which is an important subject that is there for you all in your corporate level. So this area is mainly on law. So this is basically corporate law that you are going to learn. So when focusing on your exam, which is going to happen in another 6 months time, you need to focus basically on, I would say, just three main aspects. That is, first, to understand, right? First is to understand the concepts, and then second is to basically study what is there in your syllabus. So when you are studying, you need to study the law. That means the provisions in the Companies Act and also the case law, the necessary cases. And then whatever the rules and the concepts that you need to apply. And then thereafter, as a third step is application, right? Third step is application, where you need to apply what you have learned in your syllabus. So these are the three main qualities, or rather what you should be doing with your syllabus. First is to study the concepts, study the provisions. First is actually to learn. First is to learn the concepts, the areas, whatever that is important for you, and then to study. When you are studying, you need to focus on three main aspects: the law or the provisions in the Companies Act, then the cases, rules or concepts. Then as a third step, you need to apply, right? So basically LSA, apply what you have learned here. There you need to do the past papers. This is basically the behavior, the discipline that you should follow when you are studying CL4 for the exam. So you don't have a lot of time to learn like a lawyer. Now we as lawyers have come here after doing a degree for 4 years, then after completing the law college exams, and then thereafter we have done apprenticeship, we have done the internship, and then now only we understand certain concepts. Some concepts in law we may not be able to, even the lawyers do not understand some of them, especially the junior lawyers, I would say, not necessarily the senior lawyers. So the more you study, the more you go through a particular concept, and the more you apply it only, you will be able to understand that particular concept. So you don't necessarily require to understand these, because if you look at your past papers and what you will be tested in the exam, they test you on a very surface level. The scenario is very straightforward, just that you need to remember what are the which part of your syllabus should apply to that particular question. Let's say the question is from derivatives, or rather the remedies that are there for a shareholder. Then you need to know, okay, here they are talking about a shareholder. The shareholder has been subjected to some kind of injustice. So as a result, what are the remedies that are available to a shareholder? Then you should remember, okay, minority buyout rights if it is a minority shareholder. Then derivative action, the power that a shareholder will derive from the company if the directors are doing a misconduct, something wrong towards the company. Let's take another example. You get a question on the separate legal personality of a company and its directors and the shareholders, the stakeholders of the company. So they will describe it in such a way where you will be given hints. And then you need to, okay, identify this area is from separate legal personality, on the portion of separate legal personality in your syllabus, right? And then they can give you another scenario where they explain, okay, there are several people in a company, let's say A, B, C and D, and A, B, C and D are now going to choose a name for the company that they are going to form. And this particular company is going to be used for charitable purposes, or they are going to maybe start a research firm. So they will give you this, and then you need to, a bulb should go out in your, it should start sparkling in your head, where you should remember, okay, this area, this question is asking about the company names, because they will ask, okay, what sort of company should be incorporated in order to be a research firm? Then the answer should be company limited by guarantee. There, to answer that particular question, you should know the different types of companies. Then they will ask, what are the components that should be there in the name that they are discussing about? Then it should have the term limited by guarantee. And if you are dispensing with the term limited by guarantee, you should get approval of the registrar of companies. So likewise, right? So that is the application part. This is, to come to this, you should follow this and this. So to do this, you have another 6 months, right? So this needs to be done, I would say, on a daily basis, not just for this paper, I think for other papers as well, but always be exam focused. Now the reason why I said, as a lawyer, you need to, you need to undergo a lot of training, learning, but you don't have that much of time. You all are going to be chartered accountants at the end of the day. You are not going to be a lawyer. So knowing this is definitely going to help you, because one day when you start working in a company, you can advise people. Advise, not necessarily give legal advice, but you can caution them. You can give a warning to them saying, okay, what you are going to do is going to be illegal. This is not how it should happen, right? This is not how it should happen. This is the way that it should happen. You can ensure, even if it is a startup, there has to be annual returns each year. Financial statements should be made each year. These things are regulatory. These are there in the Companies Act. So you will get that idea by knowing this. This will help you to, I would say, to shine one day when you start working. Because at the end of the day, everybody is scared of the law, right? If it is litigation, everyone is scared. So you can get that benefit, you can have that comparative advantage by knowing this particular subject. And always think of it from the practical perspective. Don't take it at a theory level, take it at a practical perspective. So, as I told you, be exam focused from the beginning. Look at the past papers. We will also be doing, I will definitely be exam focused. My lectures are going to be exam focused. And I will tell you what are the most tested areas. So if you rely on what I am telling you on the recordings, then it will be easier for you, because this syllabus is lengthy. It is a lengthy syllabus. You have to juggle your time with the other subjects as well. So we want to simplify this. We want to make this simple for you, make this easier for you, right? By focusing on the necessary areas. But that doesn't mean that you can leave out the other areas. You need to have a general idea. But whatever that is the most important, the things that you can't forget, that you must take that knowledge to the exam, where you can't write the exam without that knowledge. Those things we will focus in the syllabus we will tell you exactly what are these areas that where you must, it's a must for you to remember. So keeping this plan in mind, let's now look at the topics of your syllabus. So this is your curriculum. So this has been ongoing since 2020. There will be a revamping of your syllabus, which will apply for all the students next year, I suppose. So before that, my suggestion is for you, all of you, to finish off the exams, because this syllabus does not go very much towards the area of taxation. So taxation is definitely an important and interesting area, but it will require you to understand, it will require more time for you to understand, because taxation is, it's not difficult, but it requires a little bit more of effort than than that you can use to understand these business related, corporate related topics. So this is all going to be business corporate topics. So let's say, for example, if you're doing your internship or if you're working in a company, these concepts, these things that we are talking about, you can practically apply, right? Let's say if we are talking about directors, you can think, okay, who are the directors in the company that I'm working for, right? Who are the shareholders? Because you may be, let's say if you're working for a company where you're virtually working, you don't know who are the directors and who are the shareholders. You can maybe, ask somebody, or you can see who are the people who are actually running the company. Sometimes the shareholders can also be the directors, right? So that kind of connection you can build up in your mind, which will definitely help you in your work life and also help you to pass the exam. So that kind of, practical understanding will help you to remember these concepts. So corporate law, CL4. So these are the contents of your syllabus. So there are 10 topics. Each topic carries 10% of weightage. So which means, what does it mean? So it basically means that each topic is as important as the other topics, right? Because these are all intertwined or they are combined, right? So first one is features of a company and corporate personality. So this is the starting point, right? We are starting the syllabus from scratch, right? Or in the sense, from ABC, right? So features of a company and corporate personality. So you need to know basically what is a company, what are the features of a company, and corporate personality or separate legal personality. What does it mean? And what are the important cases that defined the corporate personality? Then we go on to discuss incorporation of a company. So you can remember it in this way. Let's say you are going to start a company. Now first you need to know, now what would you do if you are going to start a company? So you will first see, what am I going to do, right? you badly want to invest, you want to start something where you start earning. So then you will see, okay, who is willing to start a company with you? Let's say one of your friends would tell you, okay, let's start something. So then you would ask, okay, what shall we start? What sort of a business do you want to start? So there will be a lot of, suggestions. Okay, let's start a food business, or we can start selling something, or we can start an online business, we can start creating something, right? So different ideas, right? It can be, even something like teaching a service. That is also possible. Or else you all can get together and maybe you can decide to start an audit firm, a law firm. So ideas like that, the purpose. Then you will realize, okay, when you're talking to others, they will tell you, okay, you need to, if you're starting a company, you need to register the company, because otherwise it will not have any value. Because the first thing that when you start selling something, let's say you are going to retain somebody, or you are going to go to someone, a trader, right? You are going to get the services of another service provider. First thing they will ask is your registration certificate, the business registration. So to get that business registration, you need to register the company. So that is this incorporation of a company. So before that, you will start thinking, what sort of a company am I going to form? Is it a private company? Is it going to be a listed company? Or is it going to be a family business? Who are the people whom I'm going to onboard? Who are going to be shareholders? How much of money you are going to put in? All these considerations, right? So if I, put those ideas into these topics, right? So features of a company. What type of company you are going to start, and then how this company will exist, where is the company? Because you people are there, people will be there, but the company, actually a company is a concept. It should have a registered address, but sometimes a company may not physically exist. It can exist virtually, right? But you can't say it is not a company also. So those things you will realize or identify in your first topic. Then the second one. So when you are going to register the company, what are the things that you need to, what are the formalities that you need to follow? So you need directors, you need to submit the information of directors, you need to submit the information of the shareholders, then you need to retain a company secretary, right? Or one of the directors can be appointed as the company secretary. At the time of incorporation, where do you have to incorporate? So you have to register or incorporate a company with the registrar of companies. So when you are incorporating, you need to submit certain documentation to the registrar of companies, such as Form 1, Form 5 if it is a company limited by guarantee, then Form 19 for the company secretary, Form 18 for all the directors. Each director has to sign off the consent of directors. So that is basically the incorporation. You register. It is the registration of the company. That is most likely the first step of any company that is going to start. Let's say if it is an individual business, so you don't have to register with the registrar of companies. You can instead register at the divisional secretary of that particular area. Then equity and debt capital. So this is where your investment comes in. So you need to understand what is the difference between equity and debt capital. So from the terms itself, it's clear. Equity is something which you own, right? Like shares. You own shares. Debt capital, debt means something you have to pay back, like a loan. So equity and debt capital. So the difference. So when you are starting a company, whether you are going to get a loan from a bank or whether you are going to lend some, whether you are going to get some money from maybe from your parents or from a friend. So that would be debt capital. Equity capital is the buying of shares of a company. If you are a 50% shareholder, that means you have equity capital of the company. Also, what are the responsibilities when it comes to equity and debt? If it is debt, it has to be paid back. Then you will see, okay, who are the directors, who is going to be the company secretary, and who is going to be the auditors. So there are certain provisions in the Companies Act which says, which specifies the qualifications and disqualifications to become a director. Then to become a company secretary, what are the qualifications? So the company secretaries are basically, just to give you an idea, lawyers can become company secretaries. Those who pass this, those who are the chartered secretaries are also there, who have passed out from the Institute of Chartered Secretaries. Auditors are basically now by the Registrar of Companies, they have regulated the auditors as well. An auditor has to be registered, and also an auditor should be a chartered accountant or from an accredited financial institution. Then, then we will see what are the duties and responsibilities of directors, company secretary, and auditor. So the director basically needs to make the decisions on behalf of the company. They have to attend the board meetings. They will be appointed as committee members, audit committee, risk committee members. Then they need to act for the good faith of the company. Company secretary basically looks into the legal aspects, right? He will minute the meetings. Company secretary needs to sign off the documents, need to certify the documents. Sometimes, ensure that the company is running in compliance with the laws, maybe the CSC listing rules, etc. Then when it comes to auditors, there has to be basically 2 types of audit per year, an external audit and an internal audit. So then the auditors will be appointed each year. How they will be appointed? By at the AGM, at the annual general meeting, the qualifications of auditors, etc. Then, the meetings, resolutions, and company records. These are very, very important. This basically documents what's happening in the company. So meetings are of several types. There are annual general meeting, and there is extraordinary general meeting. Ad hoc meetings are also there, right? Committee meetings are there. So there are different types of meetings. So to convene a meeting, there are a notice has to be given before a certain time period. So we will look into this in the syllabus. Then the types of resolutions. So resolutions means how the directors or the shareholders will make a decision. So there are different types of resolutions, such as special resolutions, resolutions in lieu of meeting, resolutions in writing in lieu of meeting, then ordinary resolutions, etc. So these resolutions will require certain percentage of shareholders agreeing to the mandate that is set out in the resolution. So that also we will discuss in your syllabus. Then the company records. The records of the company. So there should be a share register. Then the company should maintain the originals that were signed also records of the meetings, all that needs to be maintained. Then now once all of these things are done, someday you may want to wind up the company. You may want the company to cease, not to exist any longer. Then what is the process? So there is voluntary winding up and there is compulsory winding up. So voluntary winding up is where the shareholders and the directors agree to wind up the company. They don't want to continue. They need to basically cease in the sense stop, finish of the company. The company will not exist anymore. Okay. So compulsory winding up is where it will be done with the intervention of the courts. That will be compulsory winding up. So we will look at the process of winding up and what are the implications. So at the time of winding up, a liquidator may be appointed by the courts. So when a liquidator is appointed, how should the liquidator act? What are the things that a liquidator should do? So those are the things that we will look at in the chapter 6. Then chapter 7, minority rights. So when you hear the word minority, what does it mean? So this basically means minority shareholders. Shareholders who don't own the majority of the company but rather the minority. So how you define this minority will depend. Whether it's less than 5% of shares of a company or 10% of what the percentage is. So what are the rights that the minority shareholders have? So in the Companies Act it says any shareholder, a person who holds a share, will have the right to vote at a meeting of the company. And one share will amount to one vote. So those rights will also be there with the minority shareholders. Then as I mentioned at the very beginning, what are the remedies that are there? Minority rights. So there is minority buyout rights, there is derivative action, operation and mismanagement. So these kind of remedies for shareholders are given in the Companies Act. So we will go into depth and look at those aspects. Then in chapter 8, we will look at companies limited by guarantee and overseas companies. So these companies limited by guarantee are basically companies which have been instituted mostly for charitable purposes, and whatever the profits that they earn, they will invest it back into the company. And these are most likely the associations, the organizations which are there. So most of the time the board of directors will also be members of the company, and they don't have a profit motive. They have a charitable motive most of the time. Then you will see how to name a company limited by guarantee. So the term limited by guarantee can be dispensed with with the approval of the registrar of companies. Then overseas companies. What are overseas companies? So there are two categories called overseas and offshore company. So offshore companies are basically companies which do not carry out business in Sri Lanka. Overseas companies do carry out business in Sri Lanka. So that difference we will see. So part 9, or the 9th topic of your syllabus, is listing a company in the Colombo Stock Exchange. So this is actually a preferred area of your examiner. So most of the time they will ask, what are the considerations when listing a company in the CSE or Colombo Stock Exchange? So you need to have a general idea that listing a company in the Colombo Stock Exchange will require that particular company to follow the CSE listing rules. And also there is this best practice code which has come about in collaboration between the CASriLanka and the CSC, and that will also set out certain conditions, certain rules and regulations and best practices that the companies which are listed in the CSC should follow. And then chapter 9, which is other laws adjacent to corporate law. So here you will look at the Foreign Exchange Act, then the Land Alienation Act. So these two acts will set out how the foreigners have to do business in Sri Lanka. So these two topics are mostly tested in your paper. So maybe because it's the last two topics of your syllabus and the students may tend to miss out those two topics, but my suggestion to you is always make sure that you study the last two topics. Because these laws adjacent to corporate law, they ask a lot of questions on the area of Land Alienation Act, because that act states that foreigners cannot buy lands in Sri Lanka. So the same thing applies to companies, where if a company has more than 50% of foreign shareholding, a company cannot buy land in Sri Lanka. So then the solution that a company that has more than 50% of shareholding, foreign shareholding, would be to lease out, to buy, rather to use land in a form of a lease. So when it comes to the Foreign Exchange Act, they will question you on inward investment accounts and outward investment accounts. So inward investment accounts is where the accounts which can be opened for the inward flow of foreign currency into Sri Lanka, and outward investment accounts is where the USD or any foreign currency can be siphoned out from Sri Lanka to another foreign company, to another foreign country actually. So this is basically a snip of your syllabus. So this sets out the percentages like I mentioned to you before. It's the same, and it has set out 10% for each topic. So the notional hours is 25. So you may not be able to spend that much of time, but that's okay. So you need to give similar concentration to all the topics. Then a detailed version of, so this is where the CL4 stands in the corporate law. So this will be changed. There will be a combination of law and taxation with the revisal or the revising of the syllabus, which will happen I think next year. So then it will be 60% law and 40% taxation, so something of that ratio. So if you finish this off by this year, CL4, you only have to study the necessary aspects of corporate law. Right. So this is a detailed version of your syllabus, a little bit detailed than what we discussed. So let's quickly go through it. So I have already explained what are the things that you need to learn in each topic. So under features of a company and corporate personality, you need to know law governing companies in Sri Lanka, which is obviously the Companies Act, and there are several related statutes as well. So the definition of a company, characteristics of a company, and obviously the concept of corporate personality. So this is a highly tested area in your syllabus. Then incorporation of a company, you need to know the types of companies. Again, that is an area where they question you. Incorporation of a company 2.2. Then you need to know about the promoters, articles of association, company contracts. So these articles of association is another area where you will be tested. So articles will form the constitution of the company, and you will see how it differed from the 1980s, the 1982 Companies Ordinance and Companies Act 2007, because 1982 Companies Ordinance wanted an objects clause to be included in the Articles of Association, and there were two documents called Articles and Memorandum of Association. But now the objects clause has been dispensed with, and the articles will not require an objects clause. So you will also learn about this concept of ultra vires under the Articles of Association, because previously under the Companies Ordinance 1982, there was, if there is a violation of the objects clause, it will lead to ultra vires, that is going beyond the authorized limits. But since there is no objects clause, now under the articles, this ultra vires concept is abolished and it's no longer there. Then under equity and debt capital, you will learn types of shares. What are the types of shares? So there is preferential shares, ordinary shares, that, and then allotment and issue of shares, distributions and dividends, major types of share dealings in a company. Debt capital, rights of shareholders and debenture holders. Then this part again, directors, company secretary, auditors. This, I would say, this entire topic is being tested a lot in your syllabus, in your paper. So role of the directors, role of secretary, role of auditor. Then when it comes to meetings, resolutions and company records, you need to know the different types of meetings, different types of resolutions, and then the different types of company records. So winding up, as I mentioned to you earlier, there will be compulsory and voluntary winding up, and basically the functions of parties involved in a winding up. So minority rights, majority rule, you will learn operation and mismanagement, and then other safeguards such as major transactions, minority buyout rights, restraining orders, derivative action. Then moving on to companies limited by guarantee and overseas companies, you will learn companies limited by guarantee, what are their features, the users, then how to form an overseas company and overseas company, and financial statements, serving of notice, etc. So listing a company in the CSC or Colombo Stock Exchange, stakeholders of listing, listing process, continuing obligations. So I will not go very much into depth right now, but when we are discussing the topics, you will learn all of these. So other laws, as I mentioned to you before, it will be the Foreign Exchange Act and Land Restriction on Alienation Act. So this is basically what you will learn in your syllabus. So if I give you a brief idea about your paper, so you will get 3 parts in your paper, section A, section B, and then section C. So in section A, you will get 10 MCQ questions, and each question will carry 2 marks. So the total number of marks that you will get in section A will be 20 marks. Then in section B, there will be 4 short answer questions. And each question, which will have sub questions to it, will carry 10 marks. And altogether it will be 40 marks. Then in section C, there will be 2, it's not necessarily essay type questions, but it will be short answer questions which will require you to write a little bit more. So if you are writing, let's say, 2 sentences to a question here, sub question here, sub question, okay, under each question there will be sub questions. Here in one sub question you will be required to write about 5 to 6 sentences, right? So 2, I would say essay type, but not necessarily essay type. And for each you will get 20 marks, so 40. So altogether this will come to 100 marks. So this is basically the structure of your syllabus. And remember, all these questions are compulsory. Everything is compulsory. This is the structure of your paper, right? And you will get 3 hours to answer this. And another thing is that you will be allowed to take the Companies Act to the paper, but you can't have anything, any other notes included in it, or you can have certain descriptions written on the book, but in relation to that particular section, but you can't have a lot of detail, like you can't annex. Let's say you have annex like sticky notes, that will not be permitted. So this is what you have to focus on, because at the end of the day you need to pass the exam. So this course is going to be exam focused, because we understand the requirement of students. So to be frank, this is not a subject that the students focus a lot, but I would say this requires a little bit more time, understanding, and more attention of students to pass. Because now see, if for 10 MCQs you will get similar answers, so unless and otherwise you know what exactly, unless and otherwise you have studied these areas, it will be difficult for you to answer these MCQ questions. Then in section B and section C also, the questions will be straightforward, but you need to know the areas. You need to be aware of the areas and write the exact answer. Let's say if they have expected you to write the answer special resolution, and if you have written ordinary resolution, answer is wrong. Answer is completely wrong. So you will lose the marks that you will get for that particular question. And sometimes if you get one wrong, the other one will automatically be wrong, because they may ask you, first they will ask, okay, what is the type of the company that ABCD can start. Then let's say you write the answer private company, whereas the answer should be company limited by guarantee. Then in the next question they will ask, what are the features of the company that you identified in the first question. So then if you write the features also incorrect, then you will lose out, let's say about 6 to 8 marks you have already lost. So don't let that happen. So please don't let that happen. Study the syllabus as a whole, but make sure that you be thorough with the most important parts of your syllabus. So that we will guide you. I will give you the assurance that if you follow this course, you will remember the important areas, and also you will automatically understand what are the areas that you need to focus. So studying part you have to do, it's 100% up to the student, but we will guide you. I will guide you as to what are the areas that you need to focus, because before the exam, the day before the exam, you don't need to be wondering what are the areas I should study, because you can't study everything as well. So you need to know what are the areas that you should be thorough, right? And what are the areas that you should memorize, okay? Because if you take the Companies Act, it's a bulky act, and the provisions in it, if you write the same provisions in the paper, you won't get marks, because the provisions are very convoluted. They have, it's just like another statute of Sri Lanka. Very convoluted sentences, no full stops, no commas, nothing. So if you write that section, you just look at the Companies Act and write the section, you will not get marks, because it shows you haven't studied, right? So we will guide you to finally answer this paper and to pass the exam. So that is the assurance that we are giving you. So this concludes the introductory session for CL4. So hope you will be with us till the end of this course, so that we can make sure that you ultimately pass this exam. Thank you.